Welcome to Everything Mental Health with your hosts, Chris Weeks and Maureen Edwards.
After ritual, the next part is the use of the alcohol or the drug, or the implementation of the behavior. And that is literally when the person consumes or starts doing the behavior. So consumes the drug, consumes the alcohol, or begins doing the behavior, whatever that behavior is.
Yeah.
Gambling, technology, whatever.
Oh, I find it was interesting in the previous segment. He also mentioned about the sometimes not being able to even make it back home before using the substance. And what came to mind also is the there might not even be a home to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at the culture, as far as a certain place in a certain city where it's known that the use is taking place, where a person may actually go to that location in order to use because that's the place to go.
Yes.
And so the part of, I know we're in the stage of the use right now, but part of that ritual also is going to that place,
right,
wherever it might be.
Yes.
And then the use is so focused. It has nothing to do with, it would often has nothing to do with anyone else. There's the prize, so to speak, and the use takes place, and then there's the effect of that use.
Yes, it's the devouring of the substance at that point.
As a result, yeah.
Right, in the ingestion and the metabolism of the subject.
Yeah.
Or the substance that they're
substance.
using.
Yeah.
Yes. And in that use, that can, well, there's some people will use one time and then they won't use again for maybe a week, maybe 3 days, maybe 1 day. Like, their cycle, it all depends on how well developed their addiction cycle is.
Yes.
There could also be people that use for a week. They're binging. They're using daily heavily for a week, and then the addiction cycle stops.
Yeah.
So the use, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a one-time use. It could be multiple uses. Say they picked up a larger amount of drugs or alcohol. It could be the use is taking the whole bottle or the whole 2 bottles, or consuming for the whole 2 weeks even. Yeah.
I'm also thinking that given the range of substances, depending on the intensity of the substance, or the high level of the high addictive level of that substance as well. Because a person, say for example, who might use fentanyl or even heroin might have a craving might come along a lot sooner for something like that, depending on how evolved that addiction has been as well, more so than say a person who is going to pick up cannabis,
right,
or is even taking a certain pill.
Exactly.
So there's also this level of the in terms of the individual and even their physiological makeup as to how intensely that desire to use is going to repeat itself,
Right. Yes.
and the substance itself as well.
And if you think about, that tolerance and that dependence the person has, if they're a very well-established alcoholic, they could be having this addiction cycle hourly,
Yes.
right? It's and at that point, if it's that frequent, or the heroin addict or the fentanyl addict, it could be every 2 to 3 hours, and the addiction cycle, because it's as soon as the blood levels start to fall, they'll get that craving, not the craving, but the emotional or mental trigger, which goes straight to craving, which goes straight to ritual and starts the use again.
Yeah. And that's where it can become very dangerous in terms of the risky use, because the person who is looking for that fix repeatedly is not necessarily paying as much attention to the fact that they could overdose.
Exactly.
The monitoring of the level, so to speak, it's completely out of whack, and so you've got different intense concentrations of certain substances, and the individual is not necessarily paying attention to the levels of concentration of that substance, and subsequently you're going to have a case of overdose, quite
Right.
possibly as a result.
And that brings up the point that when someone is in this addiction cycle, many times, if not always, their free will choice has been dissipated.
Yeah.
It's not really there. Like it's shaded with the coping and the craving and the physiological addiction towards the drug.
Yes. I can remember what came to mind. I can remember a young man saying to me that going through the stages from the emotional trigger to the craving to the ritual, and the excitement in the ritual stage in terms of whether having to sell something or whatnot, but then almost this euphoric feeling of fulfillment at the moment of use as well.
Yes.
And where there was no care as to whether I was going to overdose or not. There was just this kind of this feeling of almost a euphoria of sorts.
And that's an interesting thing, because right before the use, like even as you're ready to use or drink, there can be such, like you just said, that euphoric, that can be even more appealing than the actual ingestion of the drug or the alcohol.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I know a lot of opiate addicts that will have such an adrenaline rush right before use, like right before use, that they'll have to run to the bathroom and have a bowel movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? They have a physiological adrenaline rush,